Right. Welcome everybody to council meeting for June 11th. As we have quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. The time is 7 p.m. Always like to start the meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territories of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Madam Clerk, did you have anything to add?
Thank you. Good evening. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions and is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. For voting purposes, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. For members of the public who would like to speak, their opportunity to do so will be later in the meeting during the public question period. Thank you.
We're good. Thank you. First item on the agenda is, are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Carrera, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments? Any additions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes from May 28th, 2024? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next item, we have a little fun moment here. Is the BC Winter Games presentation. So earlier this year, we sent quite a few athletes up to, well, I can never pronounce that name. Was it Quesnel? Oh, I thought it was something else. I thought, what they're the, that's okay. That's okay. We had the BC Winter Games up there, and our athletes that went up there did a really great job. So we thought we would invite them over, and we have some certificates to show our appreciation for all their hard work that has paid off. So not sure how many of them are here, but what I thought we would do is get council in the center, and all the folks that are involved with that, come on up. We're going to call out your names, and come inside, come with us to the center aisle. Athletes. And yes.
I see the medal, you can't hide.
You can do it.
We're gonna do a photo. We're gonna do a photo. You're gonna be in the back. Yeah. You're gonna be in the front. Come on, yes. We're gonna do. Except for maybe you.
Come on.
That's great. You're looking right good.
Anybody else that went up?
Any other parents in here?
Any parents?
Oh. One of these. You got a camera. It looks like one of these belongs to you. And someone can take that photo for you. Wonderful.
All right.
Okay, are we ready? Yeah. All right.
You're all in order of size.
Here's the fun stuff. So, Josiah, there you go. Josiah won bronze in the boys U16 mixed team competition. Congratulations. In judo, sorry. All right. our favorite sport, bronze for individual. Excellent job. Okay, Zoe? Yeah. Not Greg, right? Greg? No. Not Darshan. Darshan is up there. Come on, Darshan was one of the adult supervisors. Here we go. Evelina? Wait, I got another batch here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's the first one on here. All right. And you did artistic gymnastics. You want to, that's not a goal.
Bronze in the women's vault and silver in the male team.
Well, look, you got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
All right. There's nobody else here. Put this over here. And one last time, congratulations. You've made your city proud. You made your family proud. And looking forward to anybody participating in the summer games here. But you're going to cheer them on, right? Volunteering. And you're going to come and cheer everybody on, right? Excellent. Thank you all very much. And just for the fun of it, I'm just gonna make sure we recognize everyone else that that won out here. So Julie won a bronze in curling. Peyton Coleman won silver for artistic gymnastics. Evelina won bronze for judo. I won't try to pronounce the last name. Zoe Liang won gold for badminton and bronze for badminton. So there's 2 of them. There's badminton tier 2 team event, and then there's bronze for badminton girls single. 2 awards. Excellent. Muyao Lu won 2 gold for badminton tier 2 team event, and gold for badminton skills event mixed. These are really tongue twisters. There should be an award for the tongue twisters. Olivia Renson won 1 gold for artistic gymnastics in the women's vault, and silver for artistic gymnastics in the CCP7 and CCP8 female team. Greg Smart won gold for wheelchair basketball. And we had other participants who participated and did well. Logan Brandt for archery, Dominic Boyer for speed skating. We had the head coach, Jason Peckham, for female curling. We had also a couple of officials that were there from Maple Ridge, Finley Ludman for speed skating, Marcus Zerberg for archery. And unfortunately, there were 2 events where we had athletes go up there, but the events were actually canceled because of lack of snow. So that's Elijah Brent De La Paz for snowboarding, and Ryan Patience, he's the head coach for alpine skiing. So once again, congratulations to everybody, and I was happy to read these into the record. Excellent. Thank you all very much. Okay, we're moving along. Next up, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the presentation from the Maple Ridge Historical Society.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to acknowledge the fan base of the Maple Ridge Historical Society here and friends. Thank you for coming. And I am pleased to welcome Shay Henry, Executive Director of the Maple Ridge Historical Society, for her presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Council, for hearing my presentation. Does
You
this
have
work?
up to 10 minutes.
Up to 10 minutes?
Up to 10 minutes.
Oh, boy. Let's start this now.
Is that pressure?
All right.
Well, whenever you start.
We'll do our best. So our mission with the Maple Ridge Historical Society, who operates the Maple Ridge Museum and Haney House Museum, is to share our enthusiasm to protect, honor, and celebrate heritage in Maple Ridge through our stories and our communities, past, present, and future. And in that spirit, the way I usually start presentations throughout town, and I do this pretty regularly, is to ground people in their own history. So here's a little bit of your history. So these are the 3 municipal halls and city halls that have existed in Maple Ridge: the 1882, the 1950, and the 1881 through today. At the Maple Ridge Museum, we have 3 full-time permanent staff: myself, Melissa Rollett, our curator, and Abby Lise, our community engagement coordinator. We have had 2 contract positions recently. Tisha Acuna is our Maple Ridge 150 curator. She's in charge of all the Maple Ridge 150 events and information. And Gordana Dimavosca, who is our archivist until May 2024, when her contract ended. Our Historical Society board is listed below. Many of them are here today in support. Our metrics, our 2023 metrics on the right there got a little bit lost in translation, but you can read a bit of our visitors, offsite visitors. You can see the disparity there. We often attend visits or events offsite, which I'll talk about in a little bit. In 2023, we had 105 members of the Historical Society. We have over 20,000 artifacts in our collection, and our website had over 40,000 users throughout the year. The way our funding works is 58% of our operating funds, or all of our funds, come from the City of Maple Ridge operating grant. 22% come from our own operational funds, which are donations, memberships, rental income, and event revenue. And another 20% come from exterior grants, community grants, provincial and federal grants that we get throughout the year. And some of our partners are there. One of the many functions that we serve in the community is building conservation of historical buildings throughout town. So that includes the Maple Ridge Museum sites or buildings, the Haney House Museum, St. Andrew's Heritage Church, the Brickyard Office Building at the museum site, and the old post office on Callahan Street. All of these, except the old post office, are owned by the City of Maple Ridge and then operated by the Historical Society. The old post office the building itself is owned by the Historical Society, and it's placed on City of Maple Ridge property. That's Callahan Park. And we rent it out as a community daycare. Over the past year and the part of this year, we've had 12 exhibits come through the museum. 2 are new permanent exhibits, including the What Was Taken exhibit on Japanese-Canadian history here in Maple Ridge. That was a temporary exhibit, and our curator has moved it into our permanent gallery. So now it is permanently part of our exhibits, and it continues to grow our archival collection on that subject. And in our new exhibit in the temporary room is called Legendary Lapidary. It's in collaboration with the Lapidary Club, and it's on rocks, gems, and crystals throughout human history. And it's if you pardon my pun, it's a real gem. So everyone should come and see it. We've had 8 pop-up exhibits at the museum and library, and those topics range from anywhere from horses in Maple Ridge history to baking history to summer recreation. And my favorite, Barbies and Bombs, a combined exhibit to accompany the Barbieheimer mania of last summer, which was put together by our summer students, and it was fabulous. Our collections, like I mentioned, we have over 20,000 artifacts in our collection. And just to ground you in what that really means, the Langley Centennial Museum, who's just gotten a brand new building, has about half that in their collection. So we have a very large collection that has been building ever since 1957 when the Historical Society began. We have 3 off-site storage units, and they are all full, and we pay an exorbitant amount for each of them. We also store archival collections at the Mission archives. The Wanak and Ruskin archives are stored in Mission because they have a better facility, a larger facility, and they're able to accommodate those archives more than we can. So unfortunately, we have a very split collection throughout town and actually even in another municipality. We also are the archaeological repository for the Katzie First Nations. So whenever archaeological digs and activities happen, anything that's found that's related to the Katzie is brought to us, and we store in trust for the Katzie First Nation until such time as they want it returned for any reason. Through the last year, we've had many achievements, particularly in our archives. We have a new database system that our full-time archivist was able to set up for us. We have had 102 at least research requests just in 2023. At this point in this 2024, I've had one almost every day. Japanese Canadian research that's expanding. We have in our collection over 4,000 archival files to be conserved and over 20,000 digitized photos. And this little picture there is just a screenshot of our new database system, which it is planned in the future for that to go on our website and to be searchable by the community when we are able to have staff working on that and getting it accessible to the entire community. We've had over 40,000 offsite event participants, engagements, and 28 events attended or hosted by the museum in 2023. Our social media engages over 1 million followers and engagements throughout the year. And we have been working hard to reach the community and go into the community away from the museums who have small numbers, and use our Museum on the Move program to reach folks throughout town at different events and pop-up events and locations throughout town. And it's been very successful. We do have a number of challenges, like all organizations. We have a storage crisis, as I mentioned a bit, and our exhibit space is so small that we are only able to exhibit less than 1% of our collection at any given time. We have improper storage conditions. We do not have temperature or humidity control. Our climate control is non-existent in most of our storage facilities, and that leads to deterioration. When temperature and humidity fluctuations are as wild as they are, when you can't control them, that's really what breaks down collections. And so we actually this year lost a collection of 100,000 negatives, and they've had to be, we have sampled them by scanning them, but they have deteriorated past that point now, and they've had to be disposed of. So now 100,000 negatives are out of our collection and our history. We also are struggling with archival funding and the collection space for that. I talked to everyone here about the future museum and archives. We have been planning for this for many years, and we continue to, as time goes on, to continue to propose a new museum's facility and a more appropriate museum facility for our collections and our exhibits and our programs. All of the community would benefit from this: tourism, educational space, research space, indoor family fun space in the rainy winters and in the very hot summers. Now, indoor family fun space is needed more than ever. A proper museum and archive storage, and an appropriate Katzie repository storage space that's going to keep everything safe. A new museum space vision would include that family-oriented space, that family-oriented interactive and fun space that that's more like a discovery center than that history museum that everybody thinks of. So I want to present a little bit about our archives and the need for support from the city to maintain our archives and maintain that professional archivist in that position. So why archives are important. Archives connect the community and individuals to the past through accessible research and resources. It provides professional expertise in archival science, research, conservation, and makes all of that available to the public. It is a repository for community and family history. It preserves histories of hundreds of current and past community groups and businesses. We offer research help, services for government, builders, companies, as well as marginalized and underrepresented communities. You can read a bit about our history, but what we collect in our archives is community history. We are the community archives for Maple Ridge, and we're the only one. We collect not only city records and city history, but also community groups, past and present, community groups that are no longer around, businesses that are no longer around or still are. For example, one of the things we did before Fuller Watson closed, we connected with the owners of Fuller Watson and met with them and collected some of their historic records for our archives. And so now that business is no longer around today, but it's preserved in the archives and their records are. And so someday someone is going to come with a research request asking about a family member or someone important to them who worked there and they want information about it or information about the business. And we now have that. That's one of many examples of the things we have in our archives. When we were able to hire an archivist in 2022, we did so with a COVID industry grant and a COVID industry recovery grant, and it was kind of a one-time grant. And I was able to hire a full-time archivist for the first time in our history. And she came in and renovated our archive space, opened the doors to the public, and created an online database system, beginning to digitize our collections for the public and made it more accessible than ever. She brought professional knowledge to the collections and conservation, was able to find those collections that are deteriorating and try to save them as best as she could before they were fully deteriorated. Not only were we able to do this, but when we don't have a full-time archivist with that funding, I, as the executive director, act as the acting archivist. I am not a professional archivist, so I do whatever I can. But when I'm not also acting as the archivist, I have time in my position to apply for more grants and increase our budget. So during those 2 years that we had that position, I was able to increase our budget by 28% with new grants and new opportunities. We have an ongoing need for this archivist position. We are not finished with the projects that she started in those 2 years. That was a very small amount of time to have that archivist come in and build those collections and build up that digitization. So we need to keep doing that. We need to have a research and professional knowledge at our archives. We need to have that professional who knows how to run an archives and knows how to do that research and conservation. We need to be able to have the archives open to the public, because at the moment, in the municipalities in the Lower Mainland, we're the only one that doesn't have that full-time archivist that's able to have it open and able to be that research center. We need to have an ongoing relationship with the city records and department and community groups who donate to us and use us as a research base. We need to have that professional that is able to offer their knowledge of standards of archival practice. So for next steps, I'm going to be in contract negotiations with the City of Maple Ridge representatives to bring this position into our operating grant and make it a part of that grant so that we can continue doing the work that we are contracted to do by the City of Maple Ridge, run that community archives and run the museum the way that it should be to the best of our ability and the best standards that we possibly can. So we will continue to communicate with city staff about that archives position as we go into contract negotiations this summer. And we will also continue campaigning for that new museum and archive space, because without that, the archivist can only do so much to preserve what we have. If we don't have the proper space to preserve it, then we don't have a future with our archives and museum. Thank you. A little over. Okay, I'm going to go back and expand on a few things. No, it's fine. Thank you.
I know as far back as when I was a member of parliament and meeting with the museum, the call for having an archive has been loud and strong. And we go back, we see there's been plenty of attempts, obviously, to try to figure that piece out. You know, and I know that you guys are going into negotiations, so I'm going to leave that at that. But having said that, every time I've gone, it's always amazing to see what you have there. It's not lost on us that I think you folks are attending almost every single, if not all, festivals that we're having, and you're out there with your tent, you're out there with your people, and you're talking and you're showing the what you have and the rich history that Maple Ridge has. And it's always interesting to see the interest from young people when they stop by your booth and they ask questions and they watch what's going on, and it's actually super fun to see that. And, you know, we appreciate that as council. We appreciate all the work that you. Do I have to say that all over again?
I don't mind hearing it.
So, you know, I want to thank your team for everything that you do and your advocacy for the museum. It's heartening to see the passion from the Historical Society and the museum for our own history here. And when we consider that we're celebrating our 150th birthday this year, you know, that's a lot of history that Maple Ridge has. So I'm going to end it there, and I'll open up the floor for questions or comments from councillors. Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Historical Society for the very important work that you do. I just wanted to say how much I've been enjoying the 150 Years in Maple Ridge online project that you guys are doing. It comes up on my Facebook feed, and it's 150 years in Maple Ridge history, a new photo every day, and it's so educational, and it's such a neat way to tie in to the sort of look back to the very beginning of Maple Ridge. So I just thought it was a neat way to like you're saying, reach out to people in different ways, and I've certainly learned a lot from it. I love the pictures of the old farms and the old farming family. It's neat to see. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. I know last year, the Museum on the Move, the first time was last year?
2022.
2022. And it was a grant that you got to do that.
We
right?
did. We got a small Metro van grant for it. And that was just enough to basically buy the tents and all the equipment. And then we've kind of taken it from there.
Okay,
And,
so
yeah.
it was, the grant was only to kind of get it started, but you've been
Exactly, yeah.
taking it on yourself.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I love it. And it's a great way to reach the community, and hey, we have a museum. You should come visit it. We're here.
Exactly.
It's amazing how many people you bump into that don't know about the amazing things happening in our community, and they've been here for 10 years. I have a quick question around the archives piece, because I know there's been some work on and off done on this, and I know there was a real push in 2014, 2015 era to try and get it done. If you take it out of just the archives piece, not the museum, I'm just curious, do you know what sort of size you'll need and what would climate control and what are the pieces that you need to have in an archives
Right.
space?
I mean, honestly, I've never really thought of the archives separately as far as square footage because we've always imagined like the archives and museum move together. For an archives museum space, that would be about 16,000 square feet. For archives itself, probably 5,000 square feet. And what's needed is an HVAC system
Mhm.
that can control for temperature and humidity. It's those fluctuations that destroy paper, destroys everything that is the archives. I mean, really, that's what it is. The problem that we can't get that in our facilities is because, like many municipalities, the museum was put in a historic building, and historic buildings make terrible museums. So because it's just not, you're just not able, and it's not practical to put a HVAC system in a historic 112-year-old building. It's just not. And so and that really is at the end of the day what is needed is a facility with ventilation HVAC.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, once again, thank you for coming and presenting and for doing such a fabulous job with the limited resources you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Our next delegation is Mr. Ranta.
Get out of here. And Mr. Ranta, unlike the previous one, you actually have up to 10 minutes.
Starting now?
Starting now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see history being talked about. I'm going to start my presentation with a little bit of history that's quite recent. Goes back about 14 years. That's taken from a Cinema Politica event here in the council chambers. Before COVID, Cinema Politica used to regularly present documentary films, usually accompanied by panelists, often experts in their field or the documentary maker themselves, and public discussions on a variety of topics. And just read some of the stuff out from our poster that we made. Monthly screenings of documentary films, volunteer-led, panel discussions with topic experts, free public events, over 10 years in Maple Ridge. Groups we have partnered with include Fraser Health, United Food and Commercial Workers, City of Maple Ridge, Ridge Meadows Recycling, Council of Canadians, Generation Squeeze, Catesy First Nation, Poverty Reduction Coalition, Salvation Army Caring Place, Wilderness Committee, Maple Ridge Farmers Market, Affordable BC, The ACT, Pivot Legal Society. Special projects we've done are Youth Vision Film Festival, Canadian Labour International Film Festival, First Peoples, First Screens. And we were doing that regularly for the 10 years leading up to COVID in this perfectly wonderful, suitable space. Very successful, usually dozens or scores of people here, and on topics that are current social, environmental issues. And even the city's own records show that 62 times we were in here. But that's only going back to 2015. They couldn't find the records before 2015, so probably over 100 times we were in here just about every month. And stopped at COVID, and we were asking, starting a few months ago, to get back started again in here. And we kept being told no, and we didn't really understand why. And then About 6 weeks ago, this happened. Our feelings were that council administration had ignored the history of public use, as well as offers by users, us, we know of, to understand concerns and works towards solutions enabling continued public use of the council chambers. The next section, I'm going to be contrasting the public knowledge, the community knowledge that could have been used to inform this decision. And it was offered and it was available, but it does not appear to have been used. And to contrast the community knowledge could have been used by council with the arguments that were presented that we believe were narrowly based. Community knowledge, Cinema Politica used the forum of the council chambers regularly, as often as once a month, for a decade, showing documentaries, hosting speakers, and holding public discussions. This next part came as quite a shock to us when we read it at the start of the argument to close council chambers to the public. We were stunned. That's knowledge, that's community knowledge. We use the forum regularly. Even the city records show 62 times, and that's only going back to 2015. It was very hurtful. And we thought that not only was it hurtful, it could have been a reason why we weren't consulted before council ended public use of the council chambers. We can't remember any security concern or damage concern arising in the 10 years we used the council chambers. So again, we were surprised. Well, our steering committee members, some of us work in schools and hospitals, and we're around electric equipment and special equipment. And we see institutions that have the public around specialist electric equipment. Our steering committee has a member who ran computer labs in schools and who designed and ran electronic music courses using a variety of electronic equipment. We have members who currently work in IT and IT installations. We asked for a meeting with the persons responsible for decisions regarding the technology and security in the room. And when we looked at the debate that council had on April 23rd, this came up as a reason why they have to close it to the public, including us. That was harsh to hear. We used to bring our own laptop. We have brought our own sound system in here. We suggested that if necessary, we could bring our own equipment in here. But we don't need the microphones. We might not need the projection system. Community knowledge. This council chambers has been used as a theater for concerts, speakers, public forums, and documentaries. Look up in a dictionary, theater, tiered seating, movies, theater, lecture theaters, discussion, That's what a theater is in the definitions in the dictionaries. And look at the architecture of this room. It is designed as a theater. Tiered seating, going towards the center. Even now, it's got a projector, a screen. It's got theater lighting on the ceiling. It's got a PA system. It is a theater. And it has been used as a theater. We used it 62 times as a theater. And that's only going back to 2015. So we were surprised to hear this argument. Burnaby, Vancouver, and the Fraser Valley Regional District do not permit external user groups to use their council chambers. Surrey does, but their council chambers was purpose-built to function secondarily as a theater. This place has consistently been used as a theater since it was built. It looks like a theater. It's designed, we believe it's designed to be a theater. Maybe the Historical Society or the museum can help us find some newspaper clippings or the architecture specification. This is a theater. We think that council made a bad decision in excluding all public groups from this theater. Council and administration could have listened to a regular user group with knowledge and experience and worked together for solutions. The amount of information council appeared to consider was so narrow, and it was really insulting, and some of us cry. We think council should rescind its support of policy 319 and work with experienced users to find ways to allow the council chambers to continue to be used by community groups for the public benefit. If you want to find out more about Cinema Politica, we're going to have booths at several events coming up. We have a booth at the...
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
Oh, I will invite you, gracefully invite you to find out more at our booth at the Seed Block Party this Saturday between 10 and 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from councilors? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, what's next on the agenda?
Thank you, Your Worship. Next up is the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are listed on the screen and are considered for approval in one motion unless a member of council wishes to discuss an item and requests that it be excluded. Each item removed from the consent agenda will be debated and voted on separately by council.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving along, Madam Clerk.
The next item up is zoning bylaw number 7821-2021 to permit the future subdivision of 2 lots, which is before council for adoption.
Okay, 9.1. I just want to make sure we're on the right one here. Okay, so we have 9.1, 2021-571-RZ, 12390 216th Street, RS1 to RS. Yeah, it just doesn't look the same as what was on the screen. That's why I was holding back. This is the bylaws, right? Okay. No presentation. Okay, perfect. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Duick. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
Thank you. The next item is 10.1, housing legislation amendments for small-scale multi-unit housing and transit-oriented area regulatory requirements, which is to allow secondary suites or detached additional dwelling units in single-family zones, 3 to 6 units of small-scale multi-unit housing or single detached or duplex residential lots, dependent on proximity to transit stations, and to reduce or eliminate parking requirements in certain areas.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Schiller, seconded by Counselor Youssef. Comments, questions? Counselor Carreras.
Sorry, I can't let this one go without any comments. I just want to share a few things. I know we've had lots of discussions around the new housing legislation, in particular these pieces. We've had workshops, we've had multiple presentations, and I do just want to thank staff for their amazing amount of work on this. We're still have much more to come, and we're only partway there. But this was work that wasn't in our work plan. It was handed down to us by the provincial government, and staff have really done an amazing job in a very short period of time to meet the requirements. I do just want to share that I think the work that we have done has been very good, and we've tried to our best within the limited framework to make it fit within our community. I think the frustrating part is the one size fits all that we have handed down to us from the province. And though the city was doing many of these things already, like allowing fourplexes, density, in particular around the Lougheed Transit Corridor, basement suites, et cetera, we have no ability to sort of ask for areas of exclusion. And we did pass a motion at LMLGA, and it's going to UBCM to ask the province to allow for specialized areas for exclusion from some of this legislation. And even if it's just a short period of time for us to catch up with infrastructure and catch up with facilities, and not only infrastructure and facilities for the city, but I also think there's a lot of infrastructure and facilities that the province has to catch up in many of these areas, in particular around schools and hospital. So I did just want to share that I want to thank staff, and I just want to recognize that a lot of this stuff is being handed down to us, and that we're doing our best to work within the legislation. And I encourage anyone to look on our website, for we have some information about what those changes are that we have to abide by, as well as some of our workshops where we've had long at length discussions on this. I will continue to ask that we hope to, continue to lobby our MLAs and the province to have some areas of exclusion. Although I'm not pushing back on the majority of this work, I think it's important and good work. And as I said, we're already doing it, but I think there is some need for flexibility and collaboration. And I've always been a huge advocate for collaboration. And so I do hope that as we move forward, there'll still be some flexibility from the province in those areas like Silver Valley, where there's no transit, there's no schools, there's no safe exits, to be able to ask for an exclusion to where this may not make the most amount of sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there are actually 5 recommendations, and we're going to make a motion for each one and vote on them separately. Okay, so recommendation 1, can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Any comments or questions on this item? Questions, sir?
I have a comment, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Very much echoing what my colleague has just said about this being handed to us, and the diligent amount of work that's gone in by staff to work within the parameters that are now being handed to us, to use the term, from the province. And having always been a fan of neighborhood plans and area plans where we can decide with our planning department how we want our city to look, how we want our community to feel. Here we are without much choice, and unfortunately, having asked the questions in the past about how much leeway we have no choice but to pass these. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Any other further comments for recommendation one? Seeing, oh. Yes,
Sorry, just one more thing in general, and I know I've asked this question and I just want to flag it again for the community that when we talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it's the transit area to area, it's the transit oriented area or it's the bus stops or whatever, and it's around the West Coast Express, that it has been designated by the province is one of the areas that is well served by transit. And I know we've shared our concern that the West Coast Express is an amazing transportation feature, but it only runs Monday to Friday, 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And to build density around that is a bit of a challenge for folks that truly need transit. Thanks.
thank you. Any further comments on recommendation one? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to the second recommendation. Can I get a motion to move this recommendation? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments or question on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to recommendation three. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any comments or questions on recommendation three? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving to recommendation four, can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. And the fifth and final one, can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, did we have a mistake we have to go back to?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd just like to ask council to retake the vote on the motion for 9.1. The bylaw number is 7821-2021, not 2024.
Okay. Sorry? Okay, second by Councillor Schiller. Clear comments? Okay, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
10.2, right?
Yes. This is the transit-oriented area designation bylaw to designate prescribed transit-oriented area near transit hubs. And these three recommendations should also be considered separately. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the first recommendation. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions? Councillor Kerr.
I'm just going to say this again, and that we continue to advocate for a definition around the West Coast Express stations and why they are included in this. At this point, it's been designated by the province and we have to accept it. But I think we need to continue to ask why West Coast Express stations are included in this when they have very, very limited transit. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? All those in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the second recommendation. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by anybody. Councillor Schiller. Any comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. And to the third and final recommendation, can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. And any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next item is 10.3, application 2021-571-BP for property at 12390 216 Street to allow for a future two-lot subdivision. The notice of council consideration of the development variance permit was mailed to all owners or tenants of the parcel and all parcels adjacent to the subject property on May 24th, 2024, 11 notices were mailed, 0 pieces of correspondence were received. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Dewitt. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item is 10.4, application 2024-134-DP/DVP for property at 10392 and 10393 240A Street to extend the date to commence construction by 1 year for 2017-510-DP/DVP. The notice of council consideration of the development variance permit was mailed to all owners and tenants of the parcel and all parcels adjacent to the subject property on May 24th, 2024. 92 notices were mailed, 0 correspondence was received. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Schiller. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Yes, item 10.5, development cost charge bylaw update, and that is just to receive for information.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Tan. Comments or questions? We got Counselor Schiller, followed by Counselor Perez.
Thank you, Chair. And it's wonderful to see this moving ahead, looking at increasing these charges. Can I just get a little bit of clarity from staff, though, what exactly we are doing here today? It looks like we're not actually changing the bylaw, but we're just getting this update.
So the ministry required us to go through this step before they would actually consider reviewing the bylaw for us. So once we have this received by council, we'll be able to forward that information package off to the ministry. They'll do their review, and we're hoping to be able to have it back to you before the summer break so that we can adopt this and actually get those higher rates in place.
Thank you. That's great to hear. And once we do adopt that and have those higher rates in place, when do those start taking effect for applicants coming forward?
So for new applicants, they'll take effect immediately. For applications that are in stream, there's a 1-year grace period.
Great. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And just to further add to that, this was a process that was started. When did we actually start this process again?
I believe it was started in 2022.
When it was sent to the province. So it's a
It
bit
was
of
sent
a,
to the province in 22 or 23.
I thought it was
So,
20, yeah,
Yeah.
but it is definitely a long process. Counselor Carreras.
Thanks. It was started in July of 2022. It came to us December of 2022, and we sent it to the province over a year ago in early 2023. So this next stage, so we just have to receive it for review and it goes back. Do we anticipate the province waiting another year to give us a final okay on this? So that it's another 2 years before it actually gets implemented?
No, we're actually hopeful it will be back from them and we'll be able to bring the bylaw to you for final reading. We're hoping before your summer break.
Thanks. Fingers crossed. We're hoping it was going to be faster than a year too. And I just want to make sure I have it correct. So even though we're raising the rates that was started almost 2 years ago now, actually, really, when you think about it, the rates that we've implemented, if I understand correctly, still do not actually cover the entire cost of growth paying for growth, that the cost to put the infrastructure in still exceeds what we'd be charging in DCCs at this point, like they should be higher?
DCCs are always going to be a bit of a catch-up game. Development cost charges are intended to fund a portion of infrastructure. So there's always that what we refer to as the assist factor. Generally speaking, that's set at 1%. And that's common across municipalities. It's been set a little bit differently for the purposes of getting this bylaw across the line. But when we go through a major review, which we will have to do in the near future with all of the new housing legislation that's come into play, that'll be reset back down to 1%.
Thank you. So when we talk about growth paying for growth, it doesn't actually pay for growth. There's always a portion that is supported by the community then?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so I think we just need to be clear to the community about that too, that there is always a portion that's not paid for and that the community supports that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Can I get a motion to receive this for information? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Tan. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, what's next?
Thank you. The next item is our public question period. Participants in public question period are reminded that there should be no discussion on public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for public question period is 15 minutes. If you wish to inquire about additional opportunities to address council, please contact the corporate officer. For members of the public in attendance in council chambers wanting to participate in public question period, please come forward to the microphone. State your name and city of residence for the record before beginning and addressing your comments to the mayor. If you would like a second opportunity to address council, please return to your seat until the mayor calls for a second round of comments. For members of the public participating electronically, please register as a speaker by raising your hand, turning on your camera, and clearly stating your name and city of residence for the record before you begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in chambers or online who wishes to speak? No? All right, well then we will officially close the public question period. Next item is mayor and councillor verbal reports. I'll take a speakers list now. Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. Just a couple quick updates to share. I just wanted to acknowledge that it was Bike to School Week last week, and I know there was a lot of effort undertaken by parents and school staff to well as cycling advocates to encourage kids to learn the skills they need to ride safely to school and to get there in an active and healthy way. I did want to acknowledge specifically Luis Melgarejo. He's a member of Maple Ridge Climate Hub, and he organized the Bike School Week events at Eric Langton Elementary School. And that's the first time in a few years that school has had some activity around that. So that was really great to see. And over the weekend, it was my privilege to represent council at the Maple Ridge Pride event on Saturday. This is somehow already the 9th year of this event. And as always, it was just a beautiful day and just so grateful to the organizers and the performers and everybody who comes out to make it a very, very cool day in Maple Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carreras.
Thanks. And thank you so much for representing. Some of us were away at FCM and I felt like it's one of my favorite events. I hated to miss it. I just want to say, as one of our colleagues who's away celebrating the graduation of his youngest, almost all our grads are just about done. If not, they're coming close to it. And I just want to say huge congratulations to all of our graduates within the community. As a school trustee, one of my favorite things that I ever got to do, and I miss it desperately as a counselor, is attending these grads and just seeing their faces come alive and with just the achievement that they've reached as they walk across the stage and the joy in the faces of their families and just hearing their thoughts and plans for the future. It's so inspiring. And if you ever get a chance to go to a grad, please go. It's 3 hours of just absolute inspiration and hope. If you just let me just a few minutes, I just wanted to share that the mayor and I attended, I'm sure you'll have extra to add, attended the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conference over the last few days, and it was in Calgary. I've always found it great benefit, at least once a term, to go to the national conference. Being able to connect with folks across the country that operate underneath different legislative frameworks, I find is really a great space to open up your mind and hear about truly new innovative ideas outside of the province. And although I don't need to go every year, but once a term, if it's on the West, I do like to attend. And I had some just amazing conversations with folks, whether it was a small little village of 500 folks and none of it along Hudson Bay, and what they were seeing for climate change was really eye-opening, and just the change in animals that they see in their community, or some of the larger cities like Montreal and the mental health, that's the work they're doing on mental health. And to some smaller cities like Timmins, although Timmins isn't that small anymore, and talking about the harassment that elected officials are seeing within their communities. As many of you may have heard, Calgary was on an emergency alert while we were there. They had a major pipeline break, which I thought was a good reminder for all 3,100 of us attending the important how important infrastructure is. And even though, while the mayor of Calgary was dealing with such an urgent emergency in her community, she still was able to come and welcome us and to close the plenary out. I think that one of the biggest things that I heard was around the need for a new growth framework across the country. And there seemed to be a real discussion and priority put on senior levels of government, supporting our level of government and the work that we're doing. And we can do what we can to speed up, as you've seen us do many times around the housing, but we do need the infrastructure to support that growth in our communities. And I think that was heard really loud and clear. And the other piece was around a panel at the end, which I found really impactful, was around sort of the harassment and bullying within elected officials, in particular around women holding elected office. And we see it time and time again. And I think as a community and as a society, we do need to be kinder to each other and support each other. It is not an easy role to stand up and do your best to make decisions on behalf of your community. And if we want to encourage younger folk at the table and different voices around the table, we do need to do it in a better way. Sometimes we heard from the mayor how she was fearful to even let her dog into the backyard for a good 6 months because people were protesting. There were posters on her front door and a toy horse head on her driveway one morning. So it is difficult and challenging, and some of the stories were heartbreaking. So anyhow, I just want to thank the community for supporting me and allowing me to go to FCM. And if you get a chance, other councilors around the table, to go once a term, it really is a great space to hear about some really new and innovative ways and things to bring back to your community. So thank you for allowing me this longer session tonight.
Thank you. Any other reports? Seeing none, I'll just echo a couple of the sentiments that my colleague said. Calgary was definitely an interesting trip. I'm often asked, why can't you do this on Zoom? When you have 3,500 participants, it's kind of hard to make close relationships. It's kind of hard to have the kind of conversations that, when you sit down at a table and you're just spread out everywhere and, you're asking the question, so what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? How is this affecting you? What solutions can you have, whether it's housing, homelessness, addictions? Everybody in that room, 3,500 people, all are facing the same things. So, there is a lot of value to go there, not only for our learning, but FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is such a powerful voice that when we talk as in unison, federal governments listen, whether it's the current government, the future government, whatever it is, they all come. You had a representative from the Conservative government there. You had the leader of the NDP there. You had the leader of the Green Party there. You had the Prime Minister there. And the Prime Minister has gone to every single one since 2013. And he did something a little bit different this time, which I was quite surprised. He actually took questions from the audience, which being in Calgary could have turned out bad. But, as mayors and councillors, when we attend these events, there is a code of conduct that we follow, because ultimately we all have to work together. And there were some hard questions, and he did what he did to answer those questions, and most people thought he did a great job. So you can't get that type of insight from just doing a Zoom call. If you're only with 5 people, sure. But the people I met with, invaluable. You know, you just make those connections, and it's important because, like I said, everybody's facing the same thing in the world. And then I did want to mention the infrastructure. There is a prime example, a main water main, a critical water main bursts. Did they say how old it was? It was old, right? If we don't replace our aging infrastructure, this is what happens. And one of the workshops I attended was called Future Ready Municipalities. Very interesting, because you talk about the trends that are up and coming, and are you paying attention to those trends? You know that at some point things are going to happen, so you have to prepare for them now, not wait for them to happen. So I just thought that was again another fascinating workshop to attend. And finally, the last piece is the harassment. Mayors and councils, MLAs, MPs, there is no doubt about it, are facing harassment, violence, threats of violence across this country. It is not acceptable, and it cannot be tolerated. We cannot allow ourselves to go down that road, because it won't end well. So every chance we get, we need to make sure that we're not accepting that type of behavior in our chamber, in our homes, on the streets. Nobody has the right to challenge you and threaten you, and it's just not good. So, yeah, it was a good trip. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to be home and see what we can take from all those learnings and continue to push forward. I'll leave it at that. I don't think we have anything else on the agenda, Madam Clerk. As we have nothing left on our agenda, I will adjourn